Hawaii is renowned for its beautiful water and stunning wildlife, making it one of the most popular U.S. states in America and attracting nearly 10 million tourists each year. One particularly popular area is Kahi Point in Oahu, Hawaii's third-largest island, with some of the most diverse snorkeling spots in the state. What makes Kahi Point even more unique is that it is home to a HECO power plant located just off the shoreline with a large underwater pipe used to remove the excess cooling water for the machines. As a result, there is a steady stream of warm salt water being distributed from this pipe, creating a large reef nearby, which is bursting with life such as parrotfish, green turtles, and spinner dolphins. This attracts lots of tourists who want to try snorkeling or scuba diving, allowing them to see these animals in their beautiful natural habitat. Unfortunately, this great diversity of underwater life also attracts other types of animals, ones that would consider those tourists to be its prey. Ray Mel Jr. moved to Hawaii with his wife and 3 children on October 1, 1989, for a new job which offered to pay him much more than his position in Boston. His family were ecstatic, the promise of more money and the beauty of Hawaii making them believe that they would soon have a peaceful and wonderful life. As magical as this all sounds, their hopes would soon be shattered. Just 2 weeks later, 33-year-old Ray arrived at Kahi Point on October 14, 1989, ready to begin his diving adventure with his friend. He was a novice diver, but was gradually gaining more experience as he traveled to different places and learning more from the people around him. It was a great day for diving. The water was warm and the visibility was high, up to about 30 feet. They were excited to see the wildlife in the area and were hoping to be able to spot some of the spinner dolphins who were known to breed nearby. They entered the water with full tanks about 750 feet away from shore. They had been told that they would have to go quite far from the shore as the majority of the beach was very shallow, so they wouldn't be able to see anything until they were much further out. They were now about 27 feet deep, and they could clearly see the sea floor below them, as well as the large pipeline from the power plant. They had been warned to stay away from the pipe itself, as the water shot out at such a high speed that it would cause them to cartwheel uncontrollably, which could lead to a serious accident if they hit something or their masks became dislodged. Armed with the warnings and knowledge to keep themselves safe, the pair descended into the water. They decided not to swim together and separated, hoping to see as much as they wanted to at their own pace. This would prove to be a mistake, as you should always stay with your diving buddy, who can keep an eye on you and alert others if there are any problems. This rule was created to save lives, but the friends still decided against it. Ray began to swim around the reef to see what he could find and marveled at the schools of fish surrounding him. Suddenly, the fish seemed to disappear, as if they were hiding from something. He saw the parrotfish quickly swim away into the reef for shelter, but he couldn't figure out why. He began to survey his environment, looking for clues as to what had caused the unusual behavior, when he spotted something in the distance getting closer and closer. As he knew the area, he had a good idea of what was coming towards him: a shark. He quickly tried to reach the surface, knowing that he was at a great disadvantage if he stayed in the water. As he ascended, the creature grew bigger and bigger as it swam closer to him. Ray knew he had little time to escape. Suddenly, he felt the tiger shark bite into his torso, digging its teeth deep into his body as he tried to struggle out of its grip. He looked around for something to help him, but there was nothing. He couldn't see his diving buddy or the boat above him, and came to the realization that he was completely alone. The shark continued its attack, tearing into his flesh as it attempted to rip him to pieces. The pain was unimaginable, but he found no way to free himself from the huge mouth of the predator. He began to feel very weak, either from lack of oxygen or blood loss, and quickly lost consciousness, never to wake again. About 15 minutes after the dive began, Ray's diving buddy began to look for him, as he was becoming concerned that he hadn't crossed paths with him in a while, considering how small the area was. He began to circle around, looking around the reef for any sign of him. but he wasn't able to spot him anywhere. Everything seemed normal, aside from some of the parrotfish hiding, although he assumed that he had just spooked them as he circled the reef. He swam back to the surface and alerted the boat crew, who returned to shore to find help. As they alerted the divers on the shore, more people decided to sail out in search of Ray, thinking that he may have simply gotten lost or become disorientated within the reef and would be in need of help. Several boats went in to search of Ray, but to no avail. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. Unfortunately, this was not the case, as people would soon realize when they found his grisly remains. The next morning, the search continued. Many fire rescue divers were deployed into the area around where Ray had gone missing, assuming they would either find a body or nothing at all. Reality was much worse than they could have imagined. As they were searching the area, one diver spotted something in the distance and reported it to those around him. As they began to approach, they realized what they were swimming towards: the dismembered body of Ray Mail Jr. He was floating just beneath the surface, covered in horrific bite marks. His skin was as white as a ghost due to blood loss. Most notably, his body was missing one of his arms, and his head had been completely bitten off, which could not be seen anywhere near the body. The rescuers called their superiors to report their findings and began to discuss how they would remove the body from the ocean. As they were planning the retrieval, one diver spotted a shark swimming from beneath them, barreling towards them from the depths. They quickly abandoned the body, not planning to be the next meal of this huge tiger shark. They were helpless to do anything but watch as the animal grabbed the body in front of them and devoured it whole, leaving only small pieces of tissue floating in the water. As quickly as it appeared, it disappeared back into the murkiness of the ocean, satisfied with its meal. The divers were horrified by what they had seen and disappointed that they wouldn't be able to take any remains back for Ray's family. They recovered the small pieces of tissue along with some diving equipment floating nearby and returned to shore. The issues continued when the divers came to shore. Even though they were able to bring some remains to the shore, the family would not be soothed by this news. After hearing that her husband was dead and her children were now fatherless, Mrs. Mail was beside herself. Due to her own poor health, she was unable to work and had been heavily relying on her husband at the time. His new job was supposed to change their lives, but now she was a widowed single mother, raising 3 children in a state away from all of her family and friends. After some time, she appealed to the courts to receive a death certificate, but they refused. She was told that they could not prove that her husband was dead, and they had experienced many instances where people had faked their own death so that their spouse could receive their life insurance. Horrified, Mrs. Mail begged them to release the money, but they refused. She sent the tissue left over from the shark attack to a medical lab to confirm the identity of the deceased, but at the time the medical technology was extremely underdeveloped. As a result, they were unable to verify that Ray was in fact dead, and his widow was left alone and on welfare to raise her children. One man may have died, but the lives of 4 others were changed forever. The family were forced to move away from Hawaii and return to Montana to live with relatives for support. Their family was tragically destroyed by the tiger shark attack that resulted in Ray Mail Jr.'s terrifying final affliction.